The wedding hall was filled with soft music, glowing candles, and hundreds of white flowers. At the center of it all stood Emily Carter, 27 years old, wearing a simple but beautiful wedding dress. She looked nervous, not because she was getting married, because somewhere deep inside, she wasn't sure she was marrying the right man. Her fiancé Daniel stood beside her with a confident smile. He was handsome, successful, and came from one of the wealthiest families in Chicago. Everyone thought Emily was lucky. Her mother had told her the same thing just that morning. "You're making the right choice, Emily. Daniel can give you everything." Emily had smiled, but she couldn't stop thinking about another man, a man she hadn't seen in almost 3 years. His name was Noah. Noah Reed. The first man who had ever made her feel loved without asking for anything in return. They had met in a small coffee shop during a rainy evening. Emily had forgotten her umbrella. Noah had noticed. "You can take mine," he had said. "What about you? I don't mind getting wet." She had laughed. "You don't even know me." Noah had smiled. "Maybe I'd like to." That was how it began. They started meeting almost every day. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became long walks, and long walks became conversations that lasted until sunrise. Noah wasn't rich. He drove an old car, lived in a tiny apartment, and worked long hours. But whenever Emily was with him, she felt like the richest woman in the world. One night, sitting beside the river, Noah had taken her hand. "I don't know what the future looks like," he had whispered. "But I know I want you in it." Emily had believed him, until the day everything changed. Noah received an opportunity to work overseas. It was the kind of opportunity that could change his entire life. But it meant leaving Chicago for at least 2 years. Emily had been terrified. "Don't go," she had whispered. "I have to," Noah said. "It's only temporary." "What if you forget me?" Noah had touched her face gently. "I could forget my own name before I forget you." He left 2 days later. For the first few months, they talked every night. Then the calls became less frequent. Messages became shorter. And one terrible morning, Emily received a message from Noah. "I think we need to let each other go." She had stared at the screen for hours. She called him. No answer. She sent messages. Nothing. Eventually, Emily convinced herself that Noah had moved on. And then Daniel entered her life. Daniel was everything Noah wasn't. He had money, a powerful family, a beautiful house, a future that seemed perfectly planned. He treated Emily well, at least in front of everyone. So when Daniel proposed, Emily said yes. She told herself that love wasn't everything. Maybe security was more important. Maybe Noah had been nothing more than a beautiful chapter that was never meant to have an ending. And now, 3 years later, she stood beside Daniel at the altar. The priest looked at her. "Emily Carter, do you take Daniel Harris to be your husband?" The entire room became silent. Emily looked at Daniel. He smiled. Then she looked toward the guests. Her mother was crying happily. Her father was smiling proudly. Everyone was waiting. Emily took a breath. "Yes." The word left her lips. And somewhere in the back of the room, a man quietly stood up. He didn't applaud. He didn't smile. He simply walked toward the exit. Emily didn't see him, but her best friend Sarah did. Sarah's face suddenly went pale. She rushed toward Emily. "Emily!" Emily turned. "What?" Sarah looked toward the doors. "There's someone you need to see." Emily frowned. "Who?" Sarah couldn't answer. She simply pointed. Emily turned around. The doors were already closing. For one brief second, she saw his face. Noah. Her heart stopped. She dropped the bouquet. "No." Daniel's smile disappeared. Emily ran toward the doors. She pushed them open, but Noah was already walking away. "Noah!" He stopped. Slowly he turned around. Their eyes met. 3 years disappeared in an instant. Emily ran toward him. "Where have you been?" Noah looked at her wedding dress, then at the ring on her finger. "I think I'm too late." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You disappeared." Noah looked down. "I didn't disappear." "What are you talking about?" "I came back." "When?" "2 years ago." Emily stared at him. "Then why didn't you find me?" Noah smiled sadly. "I did." Her expression changed. "What?" "I saw you." "When?" "Outside your apartment." Emily's breathing became unsteady. "You were there?" "I stood across the street for almost an hour." "Why didn't you come to me?" "Because I saw Daniel." Emily couldn't speak. Noah continued. "He had his arm around you. You were smiling. You looked happy." "I wasn't." Her voice broke. Noah looked at her. "You looked happy." Emily wiped her tears. "You should have asked me. I was afraid." "You?" "Yes." Noah laughed quietly. I was afraid that you had chosen someone better. Emily stepped closer. There was never anyone better. Noah looked at the wedding ring. But you said yes. Emily looked at her hand. Then she slowly removed the ring. I said yes to the wrong man. Noah's eyes filled with emotion. Before either of them could say anything else, Daniel appeared behind Emily. Emily. She turned. Daniel looked furious. Come back inside. Emily shook her head. I can't. You're my fiancé. No. Daniel stared at her. You just said yes. Emily looked directly into his eyes, and I was wrong. The room behind them became silent. Everyone had heard. Daniel lowered his voice. You're humiliating me. Emily's eyes were wet. I never wanted to hurt you. You don't love me. It wasn't a question. Emily slowly shook her head. No. Daniel looked at Noah. Then he understood. You still love him. Emily didn't answer. She didn't need to. Daniel walked away. For a moment, Emily thought the nightmare was over. She turned back toward Noah, but he was gone. She looked around. Noah, nothing. Sarah came outside. He left. Emily's heart sank. Why? Sarah handed her a small envelope. He asked me to give you this if he saw you today. Emily opened it. Inside was an old photograph. It was a picture of Emily and Noah sitting beside the river. On the back were 5 words. I never stopped loving you. Emily broke down. She ran through the streets searching for him, but Noah was nowhere. Days passed. Emily called every number she had. Nothing. She returned to the coffee shop where they had first met. She sat at their old table and waited. 1 hour. 2 hours. Then the door opened. Emily looked up. Noah walked inside, her eyes filled with tears. You came back. Noah smiled. I never really left. Emily stood. Why did you leave the wedding? Because I thought you needed to make that decision without me. I already made it. Noah stepped closer. Are you sure? Emily nodded. For the first time in years. Noah looked at her. I don't have the money Daniel has. I don't care. I can't promise you a perfect life. I don't want perfect. I might disappoint you. You probably will. He laughed softly. Emily smiled through her tears. But promise me one thing. What? Don't disappear again. Noah reached for her hand. I promise. Emily held his hand tightly. 3 years ago, Noah had left because he believed love wasn't enough. Emily had almost married another man because she believed love wasn't enough. But standing there in that tiny coffee shop, they finally understood something. Love wasn't about having a perfect life. It was about having someone who made you want to face an imperfect one together. Months later, Emily and Noah stood beside the same river where they had once promised to find their way back to each other. There was no expensive wedding, no hundreds of guests, no luxury decorations, just the two of them. Noah took her hand. I don't have a ring. Emily smiled. You don't need one. He looked surprised. Then what do you want? She looked into his eyes. You. Noah smiled. Emily rested her head against his shoulder. And for the first time she wasn't wondering whether she had chosen the right man. She knew. Because sometimes, the wrong decision doesn't end your story. Sometimes, it simply teaches you how to recognize the right person when he finally comes back.